Have you ever experienced something so chilling it left you frozen? What if you bought a cozy little bungalow, only to find out it's occupied by an angry spirit of a woman who died there? Welcome to Elmswood, a small town nestled between the hills and the fog, where the trees lean a little too close and the silence lingers just a second too long. The kind of town that doesn't make the news, where everyone knows everyone, but no one tells you everything. Sandra arrived on a Wednesday. She had no family left, no ties to any city, and a heart weighed down by grief. Her parents had died in a brutal car crash just 6 months earlier. Too painful to speak about, too real to forget. She needed somewhere quiet, somewhere far. Elmswood was perfect, cheap, charming, and untouched by time. It almost felt like a postcard, almost. The real estate agent smiled too much, talked too fast. The bungalow was perfect on paper, a charming modest 3-bedroom on the edge of the town, surrounded by tall whispering trees and a view of the hills that could make poets weep. The bungalow is a steal, he'd said. People tend to overlook it for no good reason. He laughed too loudly when he handed her the keys. She should have known then. The people of the town never said a word when she moved in. Not one neighbor came by to say hello. Windows peeked open only to shut quickly. Some stared, some crossed themselves, but nobody warned her because they all knew what she had just signed into. She thought it odd, but waved it off. Maybe they're too shy to say hello. Anyways, this is my fresh start, she said to herself and went inside. The first 2 weeks were uneventful, almost too perfect. Sunny mornings, crisp coffee, unpacking, painting, quiet nights with a glass of red wine, and the soft hum of jazz playing from her Bluetooth speaker. She told herself she'd made the right choice. She started sleeping without locking every bolt on the door. Then on the 15th night, it began. At exactly 3:11 a.m., the jazz began playing again, on full blast. She stumbled out of bed, heart pounding, only to find the speaker dead. No lights blinking. She unplugged it. Still, the music blared. Until suddenly, silence dropped like a guillotine. She didn't sleep that night. The next day, she found scratches on the floorboards beneath the hallway rug, deep, jagged, like something had been dragged violently. No, clawed, toward the living room. But her floor had been pristine 2 days ago. She rationalized, maybe termites. Maybe she hadn't noticed before. But termites don't whisper. That same night, she woke up choking, not like a sore throat, not like a cold. It felt like someone's fingers were digging into her throat. Her eyes fluttered open, and there it was, a shadowed face, inches above her own, with eyes like twin pieces of coal, dripping hate and hunger. No sound, just a presence that reeks of old blood and burning hair. Then it vanished. She screamed, but her voice never left her throat. Over the next few days, things escalated. Her mirror reflected a room that wasn't hers. Blood-spattered walls. A woman with broken arms sobbing in the corner. She went to take a bath, but when she got to the bathroom, the bathtub was filled with thick black liquid. She screamed, and when she drained it, strands of long, brittle hair clung to the porcelain. The light would flicker every time she stepped into the bedroom, then die completely when she crossed the doorway. She heard weeping beneath the floorboards and laughter behind the walls. Sandra went to the kitchen to fix something to eat as she was very hungry. She turned on the tap in the sink, but instead of water to gush out, it was blood. She screamed and ran out of the kitchen. She sat in the living room, crying bitterly. She didn't know what else to do. One night, while dozing off in front of the TV, she heard it, a whisper, not outside, not from the hallway, from the walls. "Stay!" She froze. Her hand stomped into her throat. But there was nothing. Silence again, like it hadn't happened. By the second week, the dream started. Sandra would wake up gasping, sweat pouring, her pillow soaked. Dreams of a woman, faceless, bruised, weeping in a corner of a room Sandra didn't recognize. Blood, screaming, a man's voice shouting, and always that whisper again. Feel it, leave it. Sandra chalked it up to trauma, grief-induced hallucinations, maybe. But deep down, her instincts screamed otherwise. Something wasn't right, not with this house. One morning, she found muddy footprints trailing from the back door into her kitchen. Barefoot, too small for a man, too large for a child. And the back door still bolted shut. She cleaned them, told herself she imagined it. But that night, as she passed the mirror on her way to bed, she saw her reflection. And standing just behind it, a woman, pale, blood on her blouse, eyes hollow. Sandra turned around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. But in the mirror, the woman was still there, watching. And on the wall just inside the hallway, in jagged letters that hadn't been there before, something was crushed deep into the plaster. Feel what I felt. Then the whisper started again, and this time they knew her name. Elmswood was quiet that night. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that pressed against your ears and made your thoughts sound too loud. Sandra hadn't slept in 2 days. Her eyes were ringed with a kind of fatigue that only terror can carve. The woman in the mirror, she couldn't unsee it. Couldn't forget the bruises. Couldn't shake the way her head had tilted slightly, like she was listening to Sandra's heartbeats. On the 23rd night, it escalated. The hallway grew colder, not just chilly, freezing. Sandra would walk barefoot from her room to the kitchen and feel frostbite in her bones. She checked the thermostat. Normal. She checked the windows, sealed tight, yet still. Her breath fogged in the air like she stepped into a morgue. She started keeping a knife beside her bed. Foolish, maybe. But there was something primal in her guts. Something that said you might need to defend yourself from something that isn't alive. The following evening, she found the kitchen chairs stacked upside down on the dining table like a silent tantrum had been thrown. Like someone or something was reminding her that this was its house. And then the house began bleeding. Not metaphorically, literally. Crimson rivulets began to seep from the seams where the ceiling met the walls. Thick, syrupy, the color of old rust. It trickled down slowly, silently, staining everything it touched. Sandra touched it once, thinking it was maybe old water damage or iron-laced rainwater. But it was warm. And when she smelled her fingers, copper and rot. She tried to scrub it off. It spread instead. She called a plumber. The next morning, when she woke up to answer the door, the porch was empty. But her phone had a new message from an unknown number. Just 2 words. Keep cleaning. Elmswood offered no help. The town was distant. People avoided her now. They crossed the street when they saw her, pretended not to hear when she knocked. Only the old woman at the bakery whispered, "You shouldn't be there. That house doesn't want company. It's haunted." But Sandra was too far in. She needed answers. She returned home that night with a flashlight and a plan to investigate the shaft beneath the closet. She had to know what was underneath. Who was crying? Why the house bled and screamed and whispered her name like it had known her forever. And as she stood in front of the steel closet, heart in her throat, the hallway's light flickered once, then died. The whispers returned, not just from the walls, from behind her. She turned slowly, and there, at the end of the hallway, stood the woman again. Closer this time, clearer, head tilted, mouth open in a silent scream. And for the first time she moved. She took 1 step forward, then another, and then she ran. And that's it. She's had enough. She grabbed her suitcase, threw her clothes, her phone, charger, ID, nothing else. Her hands trembled as she zipped the last suitcase. Her heartbeat thudded like a war drum in her ears. She didn't care if she left behind dishes, pillows, furniture, or even her sanity. All she knew was she had to leave now. This house wasn't just haunted, it was hostile. She dragged her suitcase to the front door, keys in hand. "Get out," she whispered to herself. "You have survived worse. You've got this." She opened the door, but the world outside was gone. The porch vanished beneath her feet. The streets, the neighbors, Elmswood, replaced by a forest, dense, ancient and suffocatingly dark. The trees popped as if breathing. The air smelled of mildew, wet leaves and blood. The house hadn't let her leave. It had moved, spun her into its maw and spat her out into this otherworldly woodland where time hung still and light barely existed. Panicked, Sandra stepped back inside, but the door slammed shut behind her. When she turned around, the living room was gone. In its place, a clearing in the forest. The soil beneath her feet felt wrong, too soft, too warm, too flesh. Then she saw her, the woman, the one from the mirror, from the screams, from the bloodstains. She stood barefoot in the clearing, her dress tattered, soaked in a thick red liquid that dripped endlessly. Not blood, something older, darker, as though the house itself bled through her. Her eyes were pure black, no whites, no lights. And yet she wept. Her voice sounded like 100 voices layered atop each other, grieving, furious, hollow. "You should not have tried to leave." Sandra couldn't move. Her body was frozen, locked by a presence stronger than terror itself. The woman stepped forward. "This house chose you. You entered it, breathed in its pain. It sees you now." Sandra choked out a whisper. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was." The woman's smile was bone-chilling. "You know now." Then her face twisted, skin whopping, jaw dislocating, and from her gaping mouth, the forest itself spoke. "You will face 3 trials. One for the mind, one for the flesh, one for the soul. Fail any, and you belong to me." Sandra cried. "What do I have to do?" The woman raised a bony hand and pointed to the dark forest behind her. "You must not run. You must not scream. And above all, never ever look behind you." She vanished. The forest paused again. The ground cracked open, revealing a narrow path flanked by crooked trees. And then came the voice again, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "Begin. Trial 1. The mind." The trees whispered secrets. Sandra walked the path, and the forest began to warp. Her surroundings changed, morphed into her childhood bedroom. The walls shrank. Her dead parents sat on the bed smiling. Only their mouths stretched too wide, and their eyes were sewn shut with wire. "Come join us," her mother croaked. "Stay here, it's safe." Sandra knew it was a lie. Her mother was cremated. This room was wrong. She turned her back to them, heart racing. Then the whispers came louder. "You left us. You should have died with us. You are alone now. Alone forever." But Sandra remembered. Don't scream. Don't run. Don't look back. She walked forward, even as her mother began to sob, even as her father screamed her name, even as something wet crawled across the floor behind her. She didn't look back. She walked straight into the next trial. Trial 2. The flesh. She stepped into a cold, sterile room, like an abandoned hospital. Her arm suddenly shackled by invisible force, and on the wall, in blood, choose a limb. A scalpel appeared beside her, glinting, clean. A whisper followed. "Lose a piece of yourself, or lose your life." Then she felt it, her skin burning, searing hot. Her right arm began to blister with growing boils, her nails blackening. The voice returned. "The pain will stop if you offer a part of yourself." Tears streaked her face. Her legs weakened. She reached for the scalpel. But something inside her resisted. This wasn't a real hospital. This wasn't real pain. It was a test of perception, a lie cloaked in agony. She screamed through clenched teeth, refusing to cut. The room dissolved in a flash of light. Trial passed. But she collapsed, gasping, her skin still marked with phantom burns. Trial 3, the soul. A graveyard. Tombstones twisted like broken teeth. The air carried wails. Children, men, women, souls lost in agony. In the center, a coffin stood open. Inside it, herself, dead, pale, peaceful. A voice whispered from the wind. Lie down and sleep forever, or fight your way back to life. A cold force dragged at her feet. Roots littered up her legs. The coffin whispered promises. Here, the pain ends. No more fear, no more trials, just peace. Sandra stepped forward slowly. Then she screamed, "No!" roared, and shoved the coffin shut. "I'm not done." The ground cracked. The forest screamed. The trees howled in fury. The dead woman reappeared, smiling. "You leave, for now." The house returned. So did the hallway, the walls, the flickering lights. But the door was open, and this time it stayed open. Sandra fell to her knees, exhausted, broken but alive. The house had let her go, for now. Sandra collapsed on the hallway floor, gasping, her trials behind her. She had passed, barely. Every nerve in her body screamed, but she was alive. She looked at the open front door, the town of Elmswood, waiting beyond, a way out. But before she could move, a cold wind slammed the door shut. Adana appeared again, dripping in red, her eyes wild with unresolved agony. "You passed the test, but freedom is not so easily earned." Sandra backed away, voice shaking. You said I could leave." Adana laughed, a low guttural sound that echoed like thunder. "I said you leave, but I didn't say you were free. There's one way out, one way to leave this curse." Sandra's voice cracked. "Tell me, please, I'll do anything." Adana's eyes narrowed and her blood-streaked hand rose, pointing to the ground. It parted, revealing a shadowy pool. In it, visions danced. A man, tall, brooding, aged by guilt. "Find him. Bring me Echina, the man who murdered me. The man who shattered my soul and buried my body like filth. Only his blood can end the curse on this house. Only him. Only his remorse can release my soul." Sandra blinked through the haze of fear. Why did he kill you?" Adana stepped forward. Her face softened, just for a moment, and the house faded around them, replaced by an echoing past. Flashback. Elmswood, 32 years ago. Adana was once radiant, a woman of grace and laughter. She married Echina, a man she adored, a man who made promises beneath the moon. They were happy. For 5 long years, laughter filled the bungalow.
But the womb stayed empty.
Adana did everything. Consulted doctors, native healers, drank bitter herbs, fasted, prayed, but the womb remained empty. At first, Echina was patient, then bitter. Soon the beatings began. Alcohol on his breath, fury in his fist. He blamed her. Every slap was a reminder she hadn't fulfilled his expectations. His words sharper, and Adana, once his queen, became a shadow in her own home. Then came Fever, a younger woman. Echina married her in secret. Within months, she bore him a son who became his world. Adana was shoved to the sidelines. The bruises came more frequently. The love was long gone. Adana, still in the same house, was now just a ghost in her own marriage. Echina no longer saw her as a wife, just an embarrassment, a burden. Favor and Echina would mock her openly. And when Echina returned home drunk, it was Adana who received the brunt of his rage. But Adana stayed. She had nowhere else to go. One afternoon, Adana was cleaning the tile floors. The boy, Echina's son, was running up and down, laughing wildly. "Stop running," she warned gently. "The floors are wet. You'll fall." But he didn't stop. Then it happened. He slipped. He hit his head on the floor. Blood trickled. His body went still. Echina heard the scream. He rushed in, saw his son bleeding and roared, "You've killed my son!" Adana sobbed. No, I tried to stop him. He didn't listen." But grief had already blinded him. They rushed the child to the hospital, but it was too late. Declared dead on arrival. That night, rage blinded Echina. He returned, eyes wild. Favor cried, but said nothing. Echina dragged Adana by the hair, beat her until her skin split open. He beat Adana to the floor, blow after blow. She cried, crawling across the kitchen floor, bleeding, begging. He grabbed a pistol and shattered her skull. She died begging. In her final breath, she whispered, "May this house be cursed. May my agony stain every wall. May no soul ever know peace here again. Let this be my revenge." He buried her beneath the kitchen floor, fled the town with Favor and their grief, and ran. Back to the present, the bungalow. Adana's voice shook now, not with rage, but with sorrow. "I loved him. I died loving him. But now, I want him dead. I want him with me. Now you know, that's how I died. That's how I was broken." Sandra wept. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Adana's tone snapped back to eyes. "Sorry doesn't break curses. Bring him or you die. A death far worse than mine." Sandra swore, shaking. "I'll find him, I promise." Sandra packed again, but this time not to flee. She journeyed far, city after city. Days turned into weeks. She scanned records, questioned locals, followed whispers of a man long thought dead, until one rainy evening, in a crumbling neighborhood bar in Port Vesta, she found him, Echina, gray-haired, hollow-eyed, a man drowning in regret and cheap liquor. Sandra approached him. "Good day, sir," she greeted. Echina stared at her. "I don't remember you. Who are you?" he asked. Sandra introduced herself. She was offered a seat. When Sandra told him Adana's story, his eyes clouded with guilt, but he refused to return. "I can't go back to that house." "You must," Sandra whispered. "Not for her. For you." Eventually, her words broke through the wall he built. The shame, the pain, too heavy now to carry. "You don't have to die. Just beg her for forgiveness. Look her in the eyes and mean it." Something cracked inside Echina. He agreed. They stood in the bungalow. The air was heavy. Adana appeared, towering, trembling, her wounds fresh, blood trailing. Echina fell to his knees. He cried, not the cry of a coward, but of a broken man. "I was a monster," he said. "You loved me. I destroyed you. I have lived every day in torment. Please, Adana, please forgive me." She stared at him in silence, and then she wept and smiled. "I forgive you." He gasped in relief. Then her smile twisted. But forgiveness doesn't mean freedom. The ground beneath him split open, held open its mouth. Echina screamed as blackened hands dragged him down, clawing, choking. Adana turned to Sandra. "Thank you. Now I will rest. Now I have him forever." And with that, she descended into the abyss, her laughter fading into the silence. The house shook, then silence. She packed her life, what was left of it, and left Elmswood behind. Some houses were never meant to be homes. The bungalow stood quiet. For the first time in 32 years, no blood dripped from the walls. The curse had lifted. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate every single one of you who stayed with me through this chilling story. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed the Haunted Bungalow, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Your engagement keeps this channel alive. And trust me, the next story is going to be even more intense. Alright, besties, stay safe and don't buy a cursed house seriously. See you in the next one. Stay safe and maybe keep your lights on tonight. Bye.